Good evening to everyone. Welcome to today's Solidarity Forum, Resistance and Liberation in the 21st Century. Today, we bring together speakers who are involved in resistance and liberation struggles around the world to share their aspiration for a better world. So the forum aims to explore the intricate dynamics of oppression and resistance in our modern era. We witness the emergence of new forms of oppression, neo-colonialism to the climate crisis. So all these issues are deeply intertwined with historical legacies such as imperialism, colonialism, apartheid, and all stemming from the systemic roots of capitalism. So today's event is brought to you by Liberart, a series of events to commemorate and celebrate people's struggles against fascism, imperialism, and colonialism. And today's forum is just one of the many interesting activities that will be happening for the next few days. So Liberart is an event jointly organized by Party Socialist Malaysia and Potere al Popolo of Italy. We would also like to state our solidarity with the Palestinian people who are bravely resisting Israel's brutal occupation. We must all continue to show our support and resist this atrocity. So now, we would like to invite Cuban Ambassador, Mr. Florentino, to take his seat. Welcome.
Sorry, your voice is not clear. We cannot understand because it's.
Hello.
Your voice is not clear.
Oh, it's not clear. Is it okay if I speak louder like this? Or do we have to fix the audio there? Is it okay if, can you hear me like this? Is my voice loud enough or clear enough?
Dr. Mahandu is joining us, so yeah.
Hello, can you all hear me? Is this clear or loud enough?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay. How about the others?
For me, your voice is not clear, really.
Oh,
Maybe
for
the
you,
mic
it's not clear.
is not,
Okay,
is not
how about
okay.
this? I will speak louder.
Yeah, your voice is not clear, yes.
Okay, so perhaps it's audio problem. Hello. Okay, I will continue first with the forum. If the speakers have any questions or any concern, you can just leave it in the chat and we'll resolve it. Okay. So before we start, I would like to ask our audience a question. So do you all know why we organized this forum on the 25th of April today? Okay, it's okay. Nobody has any clue, but it's because today it's Italy's Liberation Day, a day where the Italians free themselves from the brutality of Nazism. So today it's a memorable day for the people of Italy. Okay, now let's proceed to start our forum. So we would like to invite our first speaker, Khalid Ghanam, a Palestinian activist and member of the Socialist Alliance in Australia. He will be speaking online, so I'll pass it to Khalid. Comrade, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Comrade Khalid?
Yeah. Are you talking to me? Your voice is not clear, really. Maybe it's very, very close. It's not clear.
No,
It's not understood.
Mm,
Hello? Hello, can you hear me now? Hello, everyone.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, yes.
Oh, right.
Yes, we
Yeah,
hear.
comrade. Can I start talking now, or you want to ask question first?
Yes, you can start now. Yeah, right. Is that okay?
Okay. Talking about the Marxism way of liberating country in the last century is very different than this century. Before, in the last century, people struggle is normally internally, and the people do the revolution, and they won their revolution from their power. But and what happening in this century, when you see all the revolution, they cannot won any or to liberate any country without the solidarity from the international community. And this term, international community, it doesn't mean the government. No, it's the people power and how they support their people and who's like struggling under occupation or from the dictatorship. In Palestine, you can see like we have now the longest war in our history, like around 200 days. Palestinians are struggling with less food and no electricity, no schooling. The life is stopped, and there is armed struggle there, but we cannot win. And that's why, because the international community, the government, Western governments, is supporting Israel. And furthermore, there is Arab country is like have not any, they didn't have any relation with the armed struggle from Hamas, because Hamas is aligned with Iran and Iran is enemy of these Arab country. So it's a bit complicated to talk about why we are not winning. What we can succeed in is very hard in terms of the Palestinian power themselves. We have big things in Palestine. We are saying everyone help the Palestinian in their struggle is a Palestinian. So Palestinian is not a nationality, is the case of your revolution way. If you do any revolution action for Palestine, so you are part of Palestinian resistance. And we looking for the Palestinian resistance around the world. There was a massive rallies in all the world, especially in the big Western country like America and I mean United. I don't like to say America. It's United States of America. I don't like to say it because our comrade in Latin America saying we are the American, they are not American. And so and in the United Kingdom and Europe. To look to the action, what is the difference between supporting the Palestinian resistance and feel sorry for the Palestinian people and they are poor and they need food and it's not this. Palestinian in Gaza, they are under siege. It was Gaza under siege for more than 30 years. Not allowed for, not allowed to, they don't have any permission to bring water from outside Gaza or food or medical supply before getting Israel permission. So that the Palestinian army struggle decide we need to stop that, and we know we do not have uh, enough weapon to defend ourselves, but we do not have a choice. Enough for us to be under siege, Gaza blockaded for 30 years. We need to stop that. Um, for liberating people, saying unity is part of the liberating unity between the Palestinian people or Palestinian like political party or the problem with Palestine, we cannot have any unity between political party because the ally of Palestine, they are fighting each other. The major ally for Palestine is Arab world from Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Those are the people who's helping Palestine, and Iran and Turkey. Those country as a country and regime, none of them like each other. So, and they are fighting in Palestine, each one supporting one of the political party in Palestine, and they won't make the Palestinian united. This is major issue for the unity in Palestine. And there is one big topic about what is the role of the what is the role of the people around the world. There is something like here we can do going outside, doing the protest. We are doing protest every week, sometime more than one in New South Wales. And if you say like in Australia, there was last Thursday we count 1,000 protests in Australia during the war. 1,000 protests from little one to major one. I'm saying from little town to big town, it's 1,000 protests, and that put a lot of pressure in the media and in the government. Still, we are not winning the government. The government still now they are sending weapons, and we are asking through the BDS movement and boycott movement. We do not in our name, not from the Australian taxpayer. We need to send. We are not happy for Australia to send weapons to kill civilian in Palestine and to arm Israel because Israel is a terrorist state. Looking more about like the unity. I'm not big fan of searching for unity. I love unity, but I know that division won't help. There is something in Marxism saying focusing in these divisions will lead in fight between the parties, because at the end, if one of the party don't want unity, we need to fight them. So I don't want to fight Palestinian. We want to fight the Israeli army. Because of that, we want to talk about it in this way. What is the role of each political party in Palestine? The left party, all the lefty party in Palestine is now they are not uh, strong enough, and this is because their supply chain is cut, and we cannot do much as left Palestinian because these I mean financially fund and training, military training was happening in Syria, and Syria now is like have this civilian war which we do not like. But the good thing was the Syrian regime was giving training, military training for the Palestinian Left Party. I know there is a lot of question about this Syrian regime kill its own people, but I won't deny like they've been training the Palestinian Left Party for armed struggle. Regarding to one question which is big, what we can do for Gaza now? We are doing a lot, helping them financially, helping them by awareness, asking people. We have this resistance is like people resistance. We can see like there is media, the media coverage is very bad about Palestinian, and our role in socialists that we need to.
Oh, lost in there, okay.
Connection. We lose by the connection. But then.
So he lose connection there, okay.
Sense of the connection. Yeah, it's that makes sense.
See,
Yeah. Between my words. Oh, you can also, yeah. Yeah, no worries.
We shall wait for a while for the speaker connection.
Hello, your voice is not clear. Please, could you change your mic, please? Or small mic or anything, because your voice is not clear. It's not understandable.
Hello,
Would-
Hello.
No, it's
Hello?
not clear.
Hello, my voice. Someone cut my voice. They cut my connection. Sorry. Just can I add one more things or no time?
Hello.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
The major things people keep asking me, are we gonna achieve any result, any political result from this war? And this the question need to be asked for political people who want peace, or if they give us Gaza and free Gaza, and ending the blockading of Gaza, and free the Palestinian prisoners from Israel, and there are more than 10,000, then we can say we can successfully gain something from this war. Otherwise, we won't get anything from the war. The war is it is good exercise for us to know what is the people power. If there is I'm saying, if there is around 1,000 protests in Australia asking the government to call for ceasefire and not to support Israel, and this do not change the elite in Canberra. I mean, the government, they didn't change their decision, and they are still supporting Israel. So we are saying what the people power need to do more than protest, more than boycott. Do we have other tactic to do it? Looking for other revolution, and how the solidarity movement around the world helping the revolution, we can see there is a lot of focusing about the human, about the Palestinian people more than supporting the Palestinian resistance. Talking more about Palestinian resistance is more important for us if we want to liberate Palestine. So Palestinian keep telling the people Palestine need food, Palestine need water, Palestine need freedom. It's not we need food, and then you put us in jail. Gaza was the biggest jail in the world. It's not like you put us in jail then and they say, yeah, we'll give you this dirty food and dirty water. We want to liberate Palestine. It's mean we ask all people to not do just solidarity with the Palestinian people. We need to people to support the Palestinian resistance. And we are always saying if Palestine is occupied, it is justified not to resist. You know, last month, New Zealand is the last Western country. Last month, they classified Palestinian resistance as terrorist. Sorry. And in all the Western country classified the Palestinian resistance as they are a terrorist group and they are not allowed to work in their country. Even if you raise Hamas flag in Australia, you will be jailed 6 months. If you are Hamas member, you will be in jail 5 months. I'm not Hamas, but I'm saying this is the things. I'll tell you about Germany. In Germany, the Social Democrats Party classified Fatah as Fatah Party, which is like they are very small party in Gaza, but they are ruling West Bank. They classified Fatah as terrorist group because they are fighting with Hamas in Gaza. And when Blinken came back after Christmas, the first thing that he did it, all the PLO party, even the lefty party, which they are not part of the war, he classified them as terrorist group. If we will not have this focusing in Palestinian resistance and their right to resist, we will not liberate Palestine. We need to be more political. It's not about, yeah, I have a human feeling. Those poor people, they need water. Don't worry about water. This is from our people telling you, we, the people, did you hear anyone from these 2 million in Gaza saying we don't want the resistance? All the people supporting the resistance. I'm telling you, even Palestinian inside Israel, because there is 1 million of Palestinians live inside Israel. They are the indigenous people of Palestine. Because they put something in Facebook supporting the resistance, they are jailed. So do not think like the Palestinian people not supporting their own resistance. But we do not feel this from the solidarity group around the world, except the lefty parties who's like supporting the resistance and frankly saying if Palestine is occupied, Palestinian resistance is justified. But the most of the government, they are classifying it as terrorist group. And we cannot deny this important things like okay.
The 15 minutes is up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So now we would like to welcome our second speaker, Florentino Batista González, the Cuban ambassador to Malaysia, to speak.
Excuse me, could you speak through the computer directly, please? Through the computer directly without mic. Maybe it will be okay, maybe, because the voice is very complicated. It's making noisy. So if you talk through the computer directly, it will be okay, I think.
Yeah, it's make echo. You know, there is echo, double voice.
Just mute them.
Yeah, I think you don't use it.
I don't use my already.
I don't use my time, but you can speak.
How about like this? Can you hear us?
Can you hear if I speak like this?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I mean, the voice should come through the computer directly. You can close your mics so it wouldn't make any echo.
Yeah, we can hear you, comrade, but can you be closer to the computer, please? Can you be more closer? Yeah.
I'll try to. Will so Biden?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. It's better now, but you close your mics, please. Close
Okay.
your mics.
It's closed. This one is closed. That one is closed.
Okay.
I think we're fine now. Okay.
Well, thank you. I was saying just thank you to my comrades at Party Socialist Malaysia for inviting me here tonight to represent my people and the voice and my views, the views of the Cuban people. This is a strange time, and I say this is a strange time because I even feel a little bit bad with everything that is happening, especially in Palestine, the horror, the murder, the genocide against our brothers in Palestine. That we should talk about something else that is differently, because we all should focus on trying to help them and on trying to stop once and for all this genocide that have no other word. It's a genocide against the Palestinian people. When they say that there is a war, I sometimes always point out a war is when two soldiers fight each other. This is no such a case. This is an army just shooting against innocent people who cannot defend themselves at all. So this is not even calling a war. It's absolutely a misleading choice, and that's why I thought I would go into what I want to highlight and talk today is this topic of tonight is literally resistance and liberation. And resistance has so many different connotations. Indeed, resistance in Palestine, resistance in Cuba, resistance in oppressed territories is a total different connotation. But I want to make the point about resistance to cultural colonization. And why do I find that so important? Precisely because I mentioned the war in Gaza and the so-called war against Hamas, which is and I'm just quoting what is every day in CNN and BBC. It's not that I just share the term, it's the way it's being portrayed, and it raises the point on how all this and all the phenomena have been categorized and have been sold to a vast segment of the planet as a different concept, totally upside down. Suddenly, whatever happened in October the 7th, it has changed the topic in many countries, and the historical oppression of the Palestinian people has been forgotten. The historical oppression, the historical humiliation, the siege, the murdering, the starving, the deprivation of all the rights of human rights, suddenly it's like it has disappeared. And we hear the terms regime terrorists and used so vaguely, and they can be literally so liberally applied to anybody just if you don't agree with the policy of the Western dictating hegemony that is creating the whatever is the speech of the discourse at the moment. We have seen it all over these decades in many other cases, but it's so blatant these days, and that's why resistance to cultural colonization is as important as ever. Why? Because this is the only way we can teach our children, we can teach the next generation that there's a right to revolt, there's a right to uprise against the oppression, there's a right to fight against the oppressor, there's a right that peoples have to fight for their own liberties, for their freedoms, for their survival. And that right cannot be categorized liberally or intentionally as right or wrong. It's a right that the people enjoy. It's a right that must be protected and should be highlighted by everyone. This is a topic that has been extensively and intentionally manipulated for decades. We see in the case of Cuba, it's been, and I'm talking about things that are fully documented. Most of the Western media for decades, they call it, it's not the Cuban government, it's not the Cuban revolution, it's simply the Cuban regime. And I know many young people during my life as a diplomat that they have come and they ask me very genuinely and even in a certain friendly term, well, and how is doing the regime these days? And I feel, I don't know, I'm between confused and I don't know what to say, because literally the colonization and the free use of these tools of manipulation, of psychological manipulation, of ideological manipulation, they have been extremely successful in many cases, extremely successful in many areas. And especially extremely successful in the last 2 decades of the so-called globalization and internet. Just a simple Googling, you Google any term that is related to independent movements, to decolonization movements, to the right of liberation, and any kind of results that you will receive, at least the first 10 that you will receive, they are absolutely critical, or they are absolutely talking the wrong thing about the right course on the topic. And there's no other way. Unfortunately, these days, that has become the most important source of information for the vast segment of the planet. And for the youngsters, it's even worse, because they don't have another perspective or another historical view of why the different Palestinian organizations came together, or why they took the steps they took to fight the Israeli occupation for so long, and what are the differences or the coincidence that they have. It's up to the Palestinian people to solve that, and to categorize all that into a single label or a stigma is simply wrong, and that's why the cultural colonization is being doing. And resistance that cultural colonization is the only way to liberty. We cannot achieve the liberty of our people. We cannot achieve the liberty of our masses of oppressed people globally if we don't really achieve a point of against colonization, cultural colonization. I wanted just being a representative from Cuba, I cannot just don't mention what is happening in my country these days. But I don't want to take more long time on that, because again, I truly believe we should all be devoting our resources and energy for what is happening in Palestine. Cuba, it's been a long target of not only the cultural colonization in ideological or media terms, but the actual economic work in trying to suffocate an entire population just for exercising the right of being different, for exercising the right of being independent, for not accepting the dictates of the biggest superpower that happens to be just our neighbor, our just next door neighbor. All what has happened in all these 6 decades of acute confrontation remains, and although it is not as seen in the media, it's not as seen in many of the online media, it's exactly the same as it was in the year 1959 when it began the economic war against Cuba, and it was formally instituted as the blockade and embargo policy in the year 1961. 60 years have elapsed that policy, and it has taken a huge toll on the Cuban people, on the Cuban economy. And the intention remains exactly the same: to alter the political behavior of an entire nation just through economic war, and by suffocating the entire economy and the entire population. That is another way of committing genocide, when you commit an aggression against an entire population for political reasons. And that's been the case of Cuba. And it remains absolutely, and unfortunately, it remains absolutely the same as 60 years. Compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic, disastrous consequences for most poor countries. They had to face once again the disastrous consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, but that compounded only on an already extremely aggressive measures of attacks and policies from the U.S. government during the Trump administration. More than 250 new economic measures and sanctions were applied to Cuba. When you put it in years, it means basically one every week. You put a year has 52 weeks, and in 4 years, it means that every week they will have a new sanction against my country. And it was so targeted. It's not only now what you cannot use or you cannot trade, it's the shipping companies that bring the oil to the country. So we don't have oil to power the power plants and to provide electricity to our people. And it's our right to buy anywhere in the planet, and should be the right of every country to give us that service as long as we have a normal trade relationship. But no, it's simply obedience, coerce is prevented from this policy that again and still today the only main objective is to create an unsustainable situation within Cuba so the Cuban people will revolt. There's a phrase or a fable that I like to mention always about this, and I cannot quote it completely, but basically it was something like you don't like your neighbor and you lock your neighbor inside the house. And then you cut the water to your neighbor, then you cut the electricity, then you lock the door and you nail it, then you burn his garden so he cannot have flowers. And when the children of the neighbor start screaming because they are hungry, then you accuse the neighbor of mistreating their children. So that is basically, in other words, the logic behind of this policy, and it's absolutely applied today with all extreme against my people looking to create this kind of upheaval, unrest, and social discord within the country. That's all I want to say about Cuba. And once again, we are in full support of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause. This is not new. We've been helping the Palestinian cause for decades. We brought the Palestinian orphans to Cuba to be educated in a time that they were have no other choices to. We have.
Well done, comrade. Viva Cuba.
Gracias. And we will remain like that. We will remain like that, and we have been a strong voice in non-aligned movements in the United Nations in leading the Palestinian cause. And this is not new. This is not because it's happening today.
Oh, our host got disconnected.
Yes, exactly.
An international mission that will go into the area to protect the Palestinian people, to create a safe protection for the Palestinian people. We have supported the South Africa, of course, the South Africa claiming International Court of Justice, and we have supported, of course, the accession of Palestine to the United Nations as a full member state. All of the things that have been happening right now, we have been there since day one, and we will remain, and we will help our brothers and sisters in Palestine as we have always done it. Whatever little we have is also to Palestine. That's what we can share. We don't have much, but whatever we have is also yours. So that's what I wanted to say. The resistance in order to liberty, it goes not only by fighting, it goes by teaching our children and teaching younger generations what is the real truth of the conflict, where it's coming from, that we're not different, that we have a common problem, which is the hegemonic policies that is trying to deprive all of our people, the poor people, the oppressed people, of the things that we need to survive. That's resistance, and that's the only safe path to liberty. Whenever we are going to attain that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Gracias.
Okay.
You move here.
Oh, okay.
I think it's better. Move here. Stay closer to the mic.
Okay, next up, we would like to welcome Saleh Muslim, co-chairman of the Democratic Union Party of Syria. Comrade, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's your turn to speak and you have 15 minutes. Thank you.
Well, can I start speaking, please?
Yes, you can start speaking.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, I thank all of the people who arranged this event for us and gave us the opportunity to talk to each other in our problems, really. I think the most of the people here are in this event. Maybe they don't know the Kurds, so I would touch very shortly to the Kurdish people and Kurdish issue, and maybe historically we should know. The Kurdish people are a part of the Middle East people over here, and their country called Kurdistan. And this Kurdish area, and Kurdistan is divided to 4 parts between 4 countries, which all of them are the nationalist countries, like Iranians and Iraqis and Turkish and Syria And I am now talking to you from Rojava, which is the smallest part of north of Syria, northeast of Syria. I am Kurdish, part of the Kurdish people. So the Kurdistan as a country and as the people, they were divided to four parts during the past century in 1923 by the Lausanne Agreement between the big countries. I mean the hegemonic countries in the world at that time. And since then, the Kurdish people are suffering from the depressed in those nationalist countries because it's a nation state, and each one nation states depressing all the other people to make them, I mean, like, for example, in Syria, everybody should be Arabs and everybody should be Sunnis, Muslims, which is not inconvenience with the reality of on the ground, because we have Kurdish people, we have Christians, we have Yazidis, we have many people which are different from the, I mean, ethnically or even from the belief-wise, they are different. And this is similar in Turkey and the others. And the Kurdish people, they suffered many times, I mean, from the many genocides along the 20th century till now. Maybe you have heard about the Iraqis and maybe what Saddam Hussein has done, like the Anfal genocides, which maybe hundreds of thousands of the people, they were killed and they were dismissed everywhere. And Iranians also in 1940, 45, 46, and even in Turkey, maybe you have heard also. But I am now talking from Rojava. In Rojava, we have about maybe 2.5 million or 3 million Kurdish people here, living mostly in the northeast of Syria. And we have suffered from the Ba'athist regime also for the past years, maybe for tens of years. They didn't recognize any rights, democratic rights for the Kurdish people, and even their traditional days and even their language was prohibited. So they could not speak their language. They could not celebrate any traditional days for the Kurdish people. So it was, they were suffering a lot. And what happened, I mean, of course, I mean, I'm not going to explain everything in details, but what happened, I mean, it was the first uprising was in 2004 when during, I mean, in the same times with the invasion of the Americans to the Iraqis, the Syrian regimes was afraid of the Kurdish people and their Kurdish people. So they wanted to keep them down or just to make them depressed. I mean, since then, the Kurdish uprising didn't stop till 2010. I mean, during the Syrian revolution, Syrian people, and we as Kurdish people, we were part of it. And we, of course, I mean, we have our demands for the democracy, for the human rights, and for the recognition of our democratic rights as a cultural rights and language and whatever it is. But of course, we were depressed by them. And then, of course, now, as you know, the Syria became as the core for the Third World War. Now, everybody is in Syria. I mean, maybe the Americans, the Russians, the Iranians, Turkish, and we found ourselves just suddenly with those extremist Muslims. I mean, the political Islamic organizations, just like al-Nusra and Ahrar al-Sham, Ahrar al-Sharqiyya, which most of them, they were just Salafist and jihadist groups, Muslims supported by Turkey. And they attacked our areas, I mean, the Kurdish areas in north of Syria, and we would defend ourselves. And then in 2014, as everybody knows, there was an Islamic Iraq, I mean ISIS, which is the Islamic States and supported by Turkey again. And they attacked our areas, they killed and slaughtered a lot of people. But we, as the Kurdish people, we knew, because what happened in Shangal, it was a kind of lesson to us. So we had to defend ourselves. And as you know, maybe just Cubanist, resistance was just became famous in over all the world, because we were able, as the people, without supporting from anybody, to defeat Daesh or ISIS in Kobani in 2014-15. And then everybody felt that there are some people that could stand and resist against Daesh and could defeat Daesh. And then international coalition supported us in 2015 after they found that we are defending ourselves, defending our areas. And since then, we were able, to follow Daesh, ISIS, and their last defeat was in 2015 in Deir ez-Zor. Everybody knows that. But we are still, fighting against those jihadist organizations in Syria. But what happened now is all these organizations are supported by Turkey. And now they have their training centers, they have their camps in occupied areas in north of Syria, and supported by Turkey. And instead of at the beginning of the Syrian revolution, we were, struggling for our demands, democratic rights, and so on, from the Syrian regime. And suddenly, after 2014, when we were able to liberate our areas from the regime soldiers, from the other groups, we found our, people suddenly in front of Daesh and Turkish areas. And since then, the Turkish attacks and the Turkish invasions never stopped. Till now, every day we are suffering from those drones, killing the people, suiciding the people, threatening us every day. And even yesterday, the day before, there were some attacks to our people over here, in spite of the ceasefire agreement between, by the coalition, United States, and with the Russians. They were in the middle, and in spite of everything, they never stopped their attacks. And so now maybe you are hearing also that they are threatening that they are going to invade every day, and they don't want to this land to have democratic rights and so. But during this time, this fighting and this struggle, we were able to establish our system, which is very democratic. We are living together here as the Kurdish people, with the Syriacs, with the Arabs, with the, ethnically with the Arabs and Syriacs and the others. And belief-wise, we are Muslims, Christians, Yazidis living together in the same area. And we have put our a social contract between all those nations. Everybody shared to it. And maybe in near future, we are going to make elections in our areas. So this is the bothering all the countries here. Bothering, the Syrian regime, because they don't want such a sample or this kind of democracy. And also the Turkish side, because there is the Kurdish people, they are going to get some democratic rights. And even the Iranians, because also they don't like that's a secular system here for the women and women rights and the belief-wise. So they are not satisfied with this system. And of course, they are making some other excuse, because what they are saying, the Americans are there, the international coalition was there. This is just excuses. But the reality, they are refusing such a system because they are afraid of their people to be affected by this, this system here, democratic system. And we are continuing our struggle, and we are able now to defend ourselves. And we are just waiting for in future what happened. Really, we are in the middle of this call, as everybody knows, and also you are following. There is a third world war going on in the Middle East, and we are in the core of it. So we are trying to protect ourselves and our principles among all these conflicts. Thank you very much for listening to me.
So before the next speaker, I would like to raise your awareness on an issue that's happening in Belgium. So yesterday in Brussels, this radio historical heritage television broadcasting company, namely Start TV and Media Harbor, regularly without reason, and they damage most of their news equipment. So this event does not come casually. Yesterday was the Kurdish Journalism Day, and in Turkey, the Ottoman Prime Minister sent the police to arrest 9 Kurdish journalists that work under the Mesopotamia Agency. And this agency is a Kurdish news agency that's based in Istanbul. So everything that's happening now, there are no, Western media does not have any response towards these atrocities that's happening. So as we can see, it's an oppression of press freedom, and then it's oppressing journalists. So we would like to convey our solidarity to all Kurdish press under the oppression of the regime, and also in the face of silence from all the Western media. Thank you. So now we would like to welcome our first speaker, Ran Greenstein. He's an associate professor of sociology at the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, South Africa. He's also a renowned author who wrote extensively about the resistance movement in South Africa and Palestine. Comrade, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, welcome to begin the speech.
Let me speak about South Africa and the South African struggle. It's something that happened mostly in the 20th century, but I believe the lessons of the South African struggle are relevant today as well, both for South Africa itself and for other cases such as Palestine. I will just finish on that note, trying to apply the lessons elsewhere. But let me focus from a more historical perspective on the South African struggle. And when we think about South African anti-apartheid struggle and the political transition of the 1990s, it is easy to focus on the role of the ANC and its most important leader at the time, Nelson Mandela. But it's also easy to forget that before Mandela became a widely known and admired statesman who led South Africa through a transition to democracy, he and his organization were radical militants who dedicated their lives to the struggle against injustice, for freedom and equality. In order to appreciate the contribution of that generation of activists that led the anti-apartheid struggle over half a century, in addition to Mandela, the most prominent names are people like Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, and Govan Mbeki. We need to look at 3 crucial political innovations that form part of their legacy, which was developed over a period of decades, jointly with contribution by many other activists and intellectuals. The first innovation was the move towards mass mobilization and popular struggle. Before the rise of the ANC Youth League in the 1940s, the ANC was regarded as an elitist organization, largely composed of educated African professionals, teachers, priests, lawyers, business people, who spoke on behalf of the poor and the dispossessed Black masses, but they made very little attempt to get them into action. Their mode of operation was that of conferences, petitions, writing articles in the press, legal and diplomatic campaigns. All of these are obviously useful, but without involving directly the constituencies that were most affected by the conditions they were fighting against. The shift in strategy took time to develop, but by the 1950s, the ANC had decisively moved towards mass action with the Defiance campaign that saw thousands of people actively defying unjust laws, burning permits that constricted their movements, occupying spaces from which they were barred, challenging segregation and curfew regulation, with Mandela occupying the position of volunteer-in-chief, coordinating the campaign. In the process of organizing the action, the ANC recruited tens of thousands of new members and established a network of offices and cells covering the entire country. It thus became a mass-based movement that continued to shape the fight against the apartheid regime. It was clearly inspired by Gandhi's passive resistance campaign, which also started in South Africa in the early part of the 20th century, and it inspired in turn the civil rights movement in the US. The second innovation was to link political and social struggles. The overlap between race and class has been a feature of South African society from its beginnings, but it was only in the middle of the 20th century that it took a clear organizational form in the shape of an alliance between the ANC as a broad political liberation front and the trade unions representing Black workers together with the Communist Party. But what became known later on in the 70s as the tripartite alliance was a manifestation of the links between struggle for civil rights and social equality against political oppression and class exploitation. In other words, linking political and class struggles. ANC activists did not immediately adopt this notion, but they became convinced by the broad constituency of rural and urban peasants and workers could be mobilized, not on the basis of political slogans, but only on the basis of a program that also addressed the material, social, and livelihood needs, alongside explicit political demands. The crucial role played by the labor movement in the 1980s, perhaps the single most important political force at the time, had its origin in those early days. The third innovation was the move to transcend, to go beyond the racial boundaries created by the apartheid regime. This was exemplified in the Freedom Charter of 1955 with its famous notion, calling, I'm quoting, "We, the people of South Africa, declare for all our country and the world to know that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and that no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of all the people." This was not just a verbal statement. It was expressed in practice in attempts to create a movement that we would go beyond racial divisions and recruit activists and constituencies of all backgrounds, unified in opposition to the oppressive regime. Of course, you cannot ignore the real consequences of racial segregation, but you have to go beyond it when you mobilize to fight it. This meant transforming the movement from one that was organized initially on a racial basis into a mass democratic campaign aimed at creating, to use the South African term, a non-racial society. But the goal, of course, could not be achieved overnight, and there were dissents. Dissidents within the ANC split off in 1959 to form the Pan-Africanist Congress in protest against cooperation with the Communist Party. Later on, the Black Consciousness movement called on all those who were excluded from the system of white supremacy to organize independently of white liberals and radicals. But at the same time, the ANC moved forward to admit members regardless of racial background. That was as early as 1969, and to allow them to occupy leadership position in 1985. But the road there started already in 1960, when Mandela, Sisulu, Mbeki started working with white communist colleagues to create an armed struggle organization that would supplement above ground mobilization. And black and white cadres and commanders operated in the new formation, Umkhonto, popularly known as MK, without racial distinctions. But we must not be naive about it. Of course, to overcome a deep legacy of racial division cannot be done just by adopting a policy or by proclaiming your credentials. It requires consistent and uphill struggle to eradicate racial-based thinking and practices. And it continues to be a challenge, and it faces reverses. So it's an ongoing struggle. It's also important to realize it did not lead automatically to a unified campaign that ignored the different structural position of racial groups in society and their different historical experiences. Obviously, this must be taken into consideration. This was true for society as a whole, but also within the organizations. There were tensions on that basis, and there continue to be tensions. So it's a long-term struggle to overcome this conceptualization, which are the product of the colonial era. What are the lessons that we can draw from this kind of experience for the Palestinian struggle, but not just for Palestinians? I think it may be applicable everywhere. I would focus just briefly on two dimensions. First, the need to focus on unified mass mobilization inside the country, in all the different regions where Palestinians live. Political fragmentation is disastrous for the struggle. And the focus on armed struggle and overseas solidarity cannot replace, it is not a substitute for internal mobilization as the single most important component of the liberation campaign, as it was in South Africa. So all power to those who express solidarity from the outside, but that's not where the real struggle is. The real struggle is inside the country. Second, the need to focus on transforming the struggle from a nationalist campaign that involves Palestinian only into a democratic, non-racial campaign, to use the South African terminology, that potentially includes all residents of the country, regardless of ethnic, national, and religious origins. And of course, that means Israeli Jews in particular. They won't join the struggle in the masses. They won't join it immediately, but they must remain a target, even if only potentially, because the image of the society that we create today will also shape the society that we build tomorrow. So on this note, I want to say just that the South African struggle is unique and historically specific, but there are historical lessons that may be relevant for other parts of the world. And of course, we need to discuss them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really, I want to say thank you from the heart. Like your word is inspiring, and I'm searching for a way to make Palestinian united. And really, I learn a lot of your speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate your words.
Thank you, Comrade. So next up, we have Megan Stewart, a transgender activist from Sabah on the line. So Comrade Megan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so I'll block you and you have 15 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, speaker. I mean, all of your work is really impressive. I only work in, Sabah is a state in Malaysia. So my work is just focusing on Sabah a lot. So I think that let me introduce you what is actually going on in Sabah, Malaysia. As much as we think that Malaysia is a harmony country, in Sabah, we're actually facing a lot of dehumanized things, So Borneo Island is the third largest island in the whole world. So Sabah is located in the Borneo Island. So a lot of I say that the Borneo Island, the Borneo people doesn't really understand what is indigenous or what is the native, where is the people coming from. That is why that Sabah is the first, is on the top of the list of Malaysia that having stateless, undocumented individual. So I believe that seeing all of this Palestinian issues, Israel, is really heartbreaking. I am really, in solidarity with all of you. And it's just happening. In Sabah, stateless, I think that most vulnerable is stateless, undocumented, especially LGBT community. So those who are from the LGBT community and are stateless, they do not have entitled for any human rights, fundamental basic human rights such as education, employment, healthcare, and justice. So what I've been fighting for all, I think it's been like a decade already doing advocate and activism, fighting for all of these people that without document. It's really heartbreaking. A few incidents that I received is, transgender women, they do not have freedom of expression, freedom of movement because of they are undocumented. So whenever they attend, attend function or attend a wedding reception.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, you were just cut off just now. Yeah, we can hear you. Please continue.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I think that my line, Sabah is very bad in line. So to be honest as well, for Sabah have a bad infrastructure. The basic infrastructure, which is electricity, water, and internet, all of these things. So yeah, back to my topic is, we have incident that undocumented or stateless transgender women attending wedding reception or any function, so they wanted to dress up. So due to, they are from the Muslim, they are from the Muslim people, so they always face this harass or maybe being harassed by authority, by the what do you call this, religion department. So they are being putting in hearse and then drove around the city and town to be humiliated. This is what happened in Semporna Island, in Semporna, which is one of the districts in Sabah. So fighting all of this thing, seeing all of the trans women trying to rescue their life, they jump into the sea, which have a lot of corals and sea urchin, that causing injured. They couldn't seek for a proper health care. It's because of without document. If you are seeking for a health care, the doctor or medical practitioner will be calling authority to arrest you. So all of this, I think, is related to what, Ron and Khalid and Saleh just now, how they share it. It is heartbreaking seeing that women, children as well, not receiving all of the proper treatment where they should have received. And imagine that you already stateless and then you are diagnosed with disease, whether it's sexually transmitted infection or disease. It's really heartbreaking because the moment you try to seek for treatment, they will allow you to seek for treatment. But after you're receiving all of the treatment, they will ask the authority to put you in a red house or put you, we call it a red house, it's a detention house, a detention center. So if you have HIV, if you have AIDS, you really do not have the privilege, the food and drink is not being taken care of. So, and I receive a stateless cases. Previously I become a special rapporteur in a a discussion. It is heartbreaking as well seeing stateless individual because of they are from the Philippines and the Indonesian in Indonesia. So a lot of them is by generation already. They are not, they are not exactly from Philippines, neither the Indonesia. So they are generation, like the fourth generation. So Philippines and Indonesia doesn't want to, claim them as a citizen. So they will remain without citizen, without home, without country. So all of these people, where I become a special rapporteur, when I listen to the conversation between a member of parliament and state legislator, how they try to overcome, or maybe while deporting them, trying to deport them, going back to Indonesia or Philippines, they actually kill them. It's not really deporting them. So it's really inhumanity. I put that way, inhumanity. So yeah, it's emotional when I talk about it. I think it's something that is sad, because we don't know that if they being killed, whether are they being killed or or being abandoned, or maybe their organ are being sold. So a lot of things that when government questioning us, we need data, we need a solid data, we need a documentation. But as a human rights defender, you already provide, telling them that why want to wait for documentation? Why do you want to wait for data when you, at the first place, you can avoid things from happening, you can prevent things from happening? We have provide you the recommendation, we have provide you all of this steps, so that we don't need to provide all of the data, we don't need to provide all of documentation. At the first place, you actually can overcome it, you actually can take our recommendation to to solve the problem. But because of you're not listening to, you don't want to listening, you're not practicing democracy, that is why a lot of things happen in Sabah. Is I think it's really critical and it's very crucial as well. And people don't see it. I guess the peninsula of Malaysia and the east of Malaysia, we are actually having a lot of two different demographics, because in Sabah, we do not have UNHCR who protect all of this, I think I put it, stateless people. We do not have UNHCR. It's because of our government doesn't allow the policy where we try to fight for so long, doesn't really cover for everything, including like I mentioned before, healthcare, education, and employment. So you see, all of the stateless kids, they really trying hard to seek for education. But the moment that they seek for education, this is the time that Minister of Education, they come and interfere. They're arresting all of these stateless kids, And then when they wanted to seek for healthcare, medical practitioner doesn't provide them all of the treatment, all of the proper stuff. Long time ago, doctor is rescuing life without all of these documents, without all of this money. Is not important, financial, all of this thing. But right now is without any document, without any money, you are not entitled for treatment. So it is really hard. It's sad to look at how Malaysia government is. And on top of it is, like, they wanted to seek for employment as well, They only being underpaid or maybe labor abuse. All of this is related. I think that the intersection discrimination is very high in Sabah, And we have 3.4 million of population in Sabah. Quarter of them is stateless, undocumented. I mean, quarter of them is stateless and undocumented. Where I work with a lot of NGO and CSO, we identify more than 400 villages that is unknown, that is not being registered in the system. So it's 400 village. That is haven't even looked into, because one village, you have approximately a few thousand of people, But when you see more than 400 that is unregistered and unknown, so we believe that there are quarter of the population in Sabah is unregistered, that is stateless and undocumented, and most of them as well are from the indigenous Borneo native. So as much as the reason why we wanted to document all of these people is because of they have talent, they have all of this, their strength as well. Taking an example like Bajau Lawud, you know, as much as we don't want to recognize them, they are good in diving. If we recognize them, they probably can be the Olympian, you know, athlete for Malaysia, but we fail to recognize them. And they, in between, I mean, among them as well, they are community, the LGBT community too. So all of this is the overlap discrimination that we as a human rights defender, we try to prevent it from happen. You know, we try to prevent a lot of things happen. I wish I can explain further details, but you know, it's really heartbroken. I don't know how to describe it in you know. So this is currently that is going on in Sabah actually, and we as a human rights defender trying to provide recommendation throughout a lot of mechanisms throughout, you know, EU delegates, UN mechanism, SDG, all of this thing. But I don't think that our government is taking it seriously because we've been focusing on in the peninsula too much until a lot of, you know, like Sabah and Sarawak is under development. We don't really have a lot of technologies, you know. Why are we wanting all of this data when we can straight away providing, you know, we can straight away providing all of this data, or maybe using technology to identify them, and from there we can collect all of the data and documenting it instead of, you know, waiting. We wanted to let things happen, you know. We wanted to collect all of the data that we think that is so important, that leads to a lot of death is causing. So yeah, I think that as a Malaysian, I would like to urge our government to have, you know, look into more stateless issue, because UNICEF as well, they say in 2018 they wanted to end stateless, but until today, it's 2024. Stateless is still haven't ended yet until today. What is our action? What is our, you know, a progressive solution for Malaysia? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, next up we have Anna Chan from the Landless Workers Movement of MST Brazil. Can you hear me, Comrade? Comrade Anna? Okay, I don't think Comrade Anna is here yet, but we'll pass it on to Comrade Onyesonmu Chatoyo from the All African People Revolutionary Party USA. Comrade Onyesonmu, are you there? Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
I'll pass the floor to you now. We have 15 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much. Greetings all. Good evening, good day, wherever you are. My name is Onyesanu Chatoye. I am a Central Committee member of the All African People's Revolutionary Party and the All African Women's Revolutionary Union, a revolutionary Pan-African socialist political party with chapters throughout the African world, with our largest and most impactful chapters in Africa. I'm based in the United States of America. We have chapters in Europe, throughout Central and South America, the Caribbean, and Canada. I am also a National Coordinating Committee member of the Venceremos Brigade, the oldest Cuba Solidarity delegation in the United States, and I'm a member of the editorial staff of Hood Communists, which is a revolutionary African nationalist collective blog project. I want to thank you so much to the host for coordinating this event, really highlighting the necessity of internationalism in the global anti-imperialist movement. I would be remiss to not share my unconditional solidarity with the national liberation struggle of the Palestinian people against Zionism and against settler colonialism, and also to call once again for the need to end the genocidal US blockade on Cuba and the blockade on Black Cuba. So the narrative spread in capitalist media is that Africa as a whole, the entire continent, is a charity case that is being propped up by the benevolence of Western nations in Europe, in the Western Hemisphere. But the real situation is that Africa is far from a charity case. The reality is that the exploitation of Africa, land, labor, and resources stolen from Africa, form the foundation of the entire global economy. Capitalism and imperialism could not function as a global system without resources stolen from Africa and Africans. And in fact, capitalism and imperialism became the dominant global economic system, thanks in part to the land theft and genocide committed against indigenous peoples of the Western Hemisphere and the entire planet, and also because of the enslavement and forced labor of African people who were forced to build the empires of the West. But we have to understand that slavery is not the end of the story when it comes to capitalism exploitation of Africa. In the modern day, we know that coltan and cobalt stolen from the Congo are needed to manufacture the world's most advanced electronic devices, like any kind of rechargeable electronic device, from your laptop to an electric car to a smartphone to a smartwatch or to drones and missiles are manufactured using coltan and cobalt specifically to make their motherboards and computer chips that keep them functioning. And that is part of the reason why Congo is in such a state of devastation and destabilization, because the imperialist countries collaborate to keep it that way in order to continue looting resources from the Congo. We also know that uranium from Niger keeps the majority of the lights on in France. Nuclear energy manufactured by France is reliant upon uranium stolen from Niger. And that is part of the reason why France has maintained a military occupation of that country that only recently is coming to an end thanks to the mobilization of the masses of people in Niger. We also know that diamonds stolen from South Africa, Liberia, Congo, the Ivory Coast, help the Zionist entity, the illegal Israeli occupation, fund its genocide against Palestinians. There are no diamond mines in occupied Palestine, but one of Israel's primary exports is refined diamonds, and those diamonds are stolen from Africa. So at every single corner of the entire global economic system, we see resources stolen from Africa propping up these imperialist nations that have their boot on the neck of humanity. We also know that the US military and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, maintain a military occupation of Africa, primarily via AFRICOM, the US military's Africa Command. Over 40 different military installations and bases in the African continent, including the world's largest drone base in Niger, are maintained by the US empire and the NATO countries. And this military occupation in Africa represents a new scramble for Africa. They are competing and occupying Africa in order to continue the looting of Africa's resources, because they understand, as we need to understand, that this entire global economic system could not function without resources stolen from Africa. And at the same time as they are militarily occupying the continent and training military and police forces to brutally repress African people who are rising up continuously against the state of affairs, they also expect us to believe that China and Russia, who are pursuing ties with African nations based on a relationship of equals, are the actual entities exploiting Africa. True revolutionary African socialists and Pan-Africans are not confused about who is actually stealing from and looting Africa. It is not China, it is not Russia, it is the US and NATO countries that are the primary destabilizing force. One of the myths, lies propagated by the capitalist imperialist system and its media apparatus is that Africans have passively accepted our enslavement and the exploitation of our land, labor, and resources for centuries. This is not true. The reality situation is that Africans have resisted colonialism and imperialism from the very first moment the very first European colonizer set foot on the shores of Africa. Enslaved Africans resisted the transatlantic slave trade every single step of the way. In Africa, on board the ships, and throughout the Western Hemisphere, we were kidnapped and brought. We also know that anti-colonial struggles unfolded across the African continent throughout the 19th and 20th and 21st centuries, in which African people formed mass people's organizations, usually of a socialist character, that waged armed struggle against colonization. For example, the PIGC in Guinea-Bissau organized a mass people's movement engaged in armed struggle against the Portuguese, backed by the forces of NATO, and militarily and politically defeated the Portuguese and NATO. We see the PAC in Azania helped wage the armed struggle against settler colonialism in Southern Africa. We see the FLN in Algeria. We see ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe. We see the PDG in Guinea. All across the African continent throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, we see mass people's anti-imperialist and revolutionary movements of a socialist character, destroying the colonial system and building systems based on justice and humanity in its place. And this history is ongoing, comrades. Today, we are living through a wave of anti-imperialist resistance spreading across the continents. All across the Sahel, we have seen the masses of African people mobilizing in the thousands, in the millions, to push out military occupation. First, with France being pushed out of Mali, and then Burkina Faso, and then Niger, and then we saw those nations unite to form the Alliance of Sahelian States, saying that they want to build ties with Cuba and Venezuela and Nicaragua and Russia, saying they want the end of not just French military occupation of their territories, but all military occupation of their territories, including US military occupation, talking about the necessity of not just liberating the Sahel, but all of the African continent, a clearly pan-African vision. So we, as the All African People's Revolutionary Party, call for the political objective of Pan-Africanism, which we define as one unified socialist Africa. That is our political objective because we understand that the liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism will mean the liberation of all African people worldwide, but it will also mean a death blow to the global capitalist imperialist system, which again cannot function without resources stolen from Africa. So winning the objective of one unified socialist Africa is our contribution to our own liberation and also the liberation of all humanity and all life on this planet. Forward ever, backward never, comrade, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, comrade. So for now, we will have Ana Cha from the Landless Workers Movement of MST Brazil. Comrade Ana, are you there?
Hi, hello everybody.
Hello, hi. Hi, Comrade Anna. Okay, so now I'll pass the floor to you and you have 15 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. I'm Ana Cha. I'm from the National Coordination of the Landless Movement of Brazil. And first of all, I would like to thank you very much for the invitation to be here and take part in this seminar, Resistance and Liberation in the 21st Century. Well, MST is a social movement that struggles for agrarian reform, struggles for land, but also struggles for social transformation. We truly believe that these three main goals that we have, they can only be achieved if we struggle for this biggest change in society and to make society more just and equal for everybody. So I was asked to talk a little bit on the contemporary ways of oppression in Brazil, and because we are this movement who struggles for land, I will try to look for one of the most old and also actual forms of oppression in our country, that it is in the countryside, and it is related with the question of land. The question of land and land concentration in Brazil historically is a structural root for social inequalities, and still is the base of the majority of the social inequalities that we have in our society. Nowadays, agribusiness is the hegemonic model of capitalist agricultural production in Brazil. And this model he is increasingly exposing his voracious and destructive face at this current moment. In his essence, this system has his main goal the production of goods and the generation of profits and food production, even though it is considered a fundamental human right, has never been left out of this logic. So everything agribusiness produces in Brazil, it is to have profits. It is not for the good of the human beings or for the good of society. And when we look at the history of Brazil, we see that since the invasion of the Portuguese, the model of agriculture that has been practiced and imposed to the people who lived here, the indigenous people who lived here previously, it was always focused on production of goods for exportation. Initially, we could see that it was like the sugarcane, later coffee, soy, and a few other crops. And that was made bringing in a forced way people from the African continent who was enslaved here in Brazil and have all their rights as human beings taken apart from them. So this was like the beginning and the basis of the constitution of Brazil as a nation. So we have clear that our nation is rooted, and it was initially founded on these terrible pillars of slavery, of invasion, and of oppression of people. And so we still live the results of all these form of constitution of our society nowadays. So the agribusiness is just a continuation and a modernization of what we live since the colonization. So, and as a result of that, our territory, who has an enormous potential for food production, for people to have a good life, was forced to reduce its productive diversity, and consequently, the eating habits are now completely changed and completely standard with global patterns that were not ours. So we have seen, especially in the last 20 years, a lot of change in the production, agricultural production in the country, which has intensified usually the human exploitation, the destruction of biodiversity, and the commodification of land and of life. The agribusiness does a lot of propaganda. They use commercial TV commercials, music, art, soap opera, literature, to promote in the common sense the idea that they are a very important sector of Brazilian economy, that they are imposing the narratives of progress, development of the country, and that they don't have any kind of perverse impacts that they have. But instead of that, we need to denounce exactly what are these effects, these impacts that they have in human life and in nature. So very briefly, when we look in the economic dimension, agribusiness, it's leading our country to a growing simplification of its production base. We are completely subordinating to the transnational markets, to the financial capital. And that has a really big impact on our food production, because agribusiness is completely turned to produce commodities to exportation. So the food production is not a priority. And this has a very big impact. And it's a new, not a new, because it's like, it has centuries that happens, but it's a very actual form of oppression of people, of poor people and the workers, especially. So in the social dimension, can you imagine that Brazil still has like 1% of the landowners own more than 45% of the land in Brazil? And we have the others, all the other population that doesn't have access, and they live in, most of them in not good conditions in the cities. So along with these land concentrations, the agribusiness destroy millions of jobs, driving peoples from the countryside to the cities, and create these huge territories without communities. People live, as I was saying, in not very good conditions in those cities. And concerning what us as a social movement that struggles for land and for agrarian reform, a very important key for us, it's the struggle for food sovereignty, the possibility that people can decide what to eat, what to plant, can have access to good food. And that's something that agribusiness completely take out from us. So people now have no possibility of access good food, and that brings to the people a lot of problems, health problems, because all this what we call food monotony, the eating of ultra processed food, it's now being even seen as what some people are calling nutricide, a term that says that people are imposed to eat a poor diet and have a lot of impacts in their health. And especially the people who are impacted by this are the poor, Black, and peripheral population in Brazil. And of course, all the environmental impacts that the model has, agribusiness has, in the climate exchange, in the deforestation, in very specific biomes as Amazon and Cerrado. So we have problems with water, we have problems with extreme temperatures in our region that also affects the small food production activity of the peasants. And so we really believe that this process of violent colonization and occupation of the territory really has impacts until nowadays on the way we live and the way the Brazilian society is organized. So for us, we can all just overcome this situation if we really in the countryside, if we promote a very radical and people's agrarian reform, which means not just to distribute land for people, but to promote a good way of living in people. People need to be happy and have good conditions for living in the countryside, but also in the cities. And for that, we need to confrontate this model of agriculture. We need to struggle for change the way of production in agriculture and promote an agroecological way of producing. And especially, we need to understand that it's urgent to recognize the human nature relationship. We can only survive if we really understood that we need to defend nature, we need to promote a very harmonious and cooperative relation with nature, a very cooperative way of life among humans. We need to guarantee food sovereignty. We need to guarantee the diversity of food and cultures. And we need to struggle that people have access to everything they need, but also we need to rebuild this collective life that somehow the neoliberal policies and subjectivity just say to us that we need to end collectivity, we need to end cooperation, and we are saying, no, it's possible to organize life in a different way. It's possible to bring communities again to participate collectively on this construction of an alternative and possible and urgent society. So this year, MST has completed 40 years of struggle. So it's a very important year for us. And we want to reinforce our values of solidarity and building internationalism. So thank you again so much for allowing us to participate on this special seminar about resistance and about liberation and about internationalism. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So now we would like to welcome our final speaker, Kohila Yana Sekaran, the Central Committee member of the Socialist Party of Malaysia.
Thank you very much, comrades. First, I would like to express our solidarity for PSM, also the Malaysian people, for the struggle of the freedom struggle of the Palestine and all the freedom struggle in the world, because it's a very
excuse me, the voice is making echo. It's not clear. So
okay.
Could you talk to the computer directly without the microphone? Without microphone, please.
Robert, can you hear me now?
Okay, can you hear me now? Right?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay, sure. Okay, so here I think throughout, because I was asked by the organizer to do like a conclusion or a summary of whatever has been spoken. But before that, we'd like to share the story of resistance in Malaysia and how now I think maybe we share the story in the 21st century. I think after 1998, when the current Prime Minister was actually set, there was a huge wave of resistance in Malaysia on various ways. And though it was initially, it's about him and the Reformasi movement, where it's a movement for change, and then it actually managed to capture many, the Rakyat overall, to bring bigger changes, more permanent changes that were very significant. So it all started early 2007 when it's against discrimination. There was this Hindra struggle where the Indian community felt that they were discriminated. And then there's also this huge rally for a free and fair election, because 2008 was going to be an election year. And then after that, that's at Versailles 1, that's the free and fair coalition in Malaysia actually. And then it moved on. We had Versailles 2, and then we had an anti-ISA where people actually, 15,000 people actually came down to Kuala Lumpur in 2009 to march against the oppressive law, detention without trial law in Malaysia, which actually brought to the abolishment of the law. So all these struggles were actually a big build-up, and it really empowered the people in Malaysia, and this resistance actually grew, and it worked on trying to bring political change, where a single party was ruling for 60 years in Malaysia, and slowly there was a change happened. And in 2018, actually, there was a change of government where a new government took over, Pakatan Harapan took over, and people were very happy about it. And they thought, oh, finally change has come. Now we leave the job to the politicians and we can go back and do our own work, you know. But of course, that didn't happen when in 2020 the new government collapsed. So at that point, some of the people actually had the realization that, oh, we cannot leave this job to just politicians. The people have to be in control. But then again, it was again, oh, the bigger parties should come into power, where progressive forces like PSM and other left progressive groups were actually said, no, we have to look at the bigger picture. And then in the recent elections, a new government came in. However, the new government has actually now working together the old party. And what is happening now actually? You know, I mean, did we really get the change that we have got? So many people are actually frustrated. Whereas from the start, PSM and progressive forces have actually said that, no, we cannot leave politics to the politicians. The people have to take control of all this. But then many people thought, no, the new government will do everything. But today we can see the new government has actually gone back on the promises, okay? race and religion is actually used to divide and rule the country, because when you have a weak government, this is what they do. They want to divide the masses so that among us we are not united. So the bread and butter issue is not looked at. Bread and butter issues like low salary, eviction of farmers, high cost of living, taxes. Because at that time, at one point in time, in 2015, a big rally was organized to oppose GST, the goods and services taxes. And then we actually, in 2018, it was abolished. Okay. But now the SST is more than the GST at that time. Okay, and different kind of taxes are coming in. So actually, an invisible hand, the capitalist with the invisible hand, is actually making our lives worse off than how we were. And people are still believing that the new government will actually bring changes, because these are the people in the new government who are standing beside us and fighting all out with us in the streets. So today they still have the hope that things will change. But no, it's not going to change, because it's between Pepsi Cola and Coca-Cola. Okay. So what is needed? What are the lessons that we have learned actually? One thing is, we shouldn't leave politics to politicians. Okay. The masses that came, they wanted change, but they were not actually politicized on real politics. Everybody was on partisan politics. We should have real politics where people should think we have the power, we must bring the change. We must always be the check and balance. We cannot expect A to be the check and balance, B to be the check and balance, C to be the check and balance. The second thing is, progressive forces must come together as a whole. Today, PSM, despite a lot of things that we've achieved in the people's struggle, but we are unable to get the votes. That is something very sad to say, but that doesn't stop PSM from moving forward. So it's not only the election must be the place where you show your power, it's in the people's struggle. So, and we should continue to empower people to actually fight for their rights, and progressive forces should actually unite together. That is a very important thing to actually do. Because, and the younger generation, because today 18 years old already can vote. But what are they learning in school? Race and religion. Polarization is so rampant in schools, especially government schools. Believe it or not, you just have to go there, or somebody has to study there, you will know. So outside, how can we as progressive forces actually using the social media, and now with all the TikTok and everything, how can we reach out to give the class analysis? How do we actually unite people? What is the common factor that we need to unite people? All these are things that we need to do to actually realize our dream for the new Malaysia. Now it's still not the new Malaysia. It's worse. Every day you see it's about race and religion, and now we are going to have the by-election in Kuala Lumpur, and we know what is going to come out of it. We all know what is going to come out of it. So the main task that we have in hand is actually the politicization of the masses, and politics shouldn't be left to the politicians. Malaysians need political education, non-partisan political education, so that they'll be on their own side and not on anybody's side. Okay, and the younger generation should actively participate in politics and not run after only social media or career progress. Because time, effort, and energy should be allocated to the political struggle to build a progressive mass. And it is important for all the progressive groups and coalitions to come together to fight against capitalism, racism, the divide and rule. Because in Malaysia, we still have what our colonial masters left us, divide and rule. That is actually a big, it's actually blocking the working class movement to actually be built. And also, as we saw just now, the Palestine's struggle for freedom, and our honorable and ambassador has actually pointed out the resistance to cultural colonialism and the Kurdish struggle of freedom. And when we learned from the South African struggle, where our comrade actually shared what are the lessons to be learned, that unity. So all this is very, very relevant to how we want to look at things in Malaysia. And because in Malaysia also there's stereotyping. To be a Malaysian, you have to be like this. Anything else, communists or socialists are enemies of the state. That's that's how, and all this actually is not what, not only through the media they're actually doing this, but it's the social media is actually used massively to actually promote all this. So this is where the stereotyping and all this comes into place. Land struggle is something so relevant to us also, where our comrades in Brazil have this landless issues. Where here farmers in Perak, the northern states, are being evicted out of land that they've actually worked for decades. And of course, our comrade from the All African Party has actually given us a hope that the wave of anti-imperialism is actually a big movement in Africa. And in Malaysia, that's what we actually aim to achieve, because there should be a time when initially, prior to this government coming into power, that's how people were. It was our struggle. It's not your struggle or my struggle. But now, if any question is raised, it's my party, you cannot speak, your party, oh, you people are always troublemakers. You always find, oh, the government needs time. Everybody is willing to give the government time. But what can the man on the street wait? Or will he die of hunger? Or will he be evicted out of his land? So all this must be looked at. So for us, I think we shouldn't be the apologists. Any Malaysian shouldn't be the apologists of the government. We are the masters here. We should actually question. People should be empowered to question, and people should be brought together. So I think in that point, actually, PSM is actually working on in various ways, especially through our front, the Gabungan Marhain, to try to bring the people together. And it's important for progressive forces and also civil society to come together so that we actually work towards the real change, build a Malaysia which is minus racism, minus discrimination, and minus inequality. So our hope and thought is for a better Malaysia and for a better world, so that all these issues that was highlighted will one day come for we will have solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. So now all of our speakers on the panel have already provide their inputs, their insights. For now, we would like to open the floor for contributions and also questions. So if anybody has any input or questions, please keep it brief. We will try our best to address everyone's question. So would anyone like to ask the first question or provide their opinions on anything? Please feel free to do so. Or if you want to direct your questions to any particular speakers, please let us know also. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, just stand up, yeah.
Yeah, I don't stand up, I think I'm not difficult, but I think what our fellow Malaysian comrade here has said is especially important. I do like the fact that she highlighted that the Malaysian education system has a lot of room for improvement, especially when it comes to the pedagogy, the way that they teach, right? So I was just wondering how, as a one individual, can we change to the curriculum? I'm sure there are a lot of bureaucracy in the system that makes it very hard to change that. So how can we improve a more class-conscious way or more critical way of looking at knowledge instead of trying to drill in race divisions and things like that. So yeah, that's my question. It's going to be very hard to answer,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah, but it is. I think it's. If you cannot find an answer, don't worry. I don't have the answer myself as well. But I'm also in the journey towards trying to figure out how to tackle that in that education. Reading some of our comments from different parts of the world, maybe they have some insight into how we should go about that. Thank you.
Does anyone over here wants to provide contribution and address this question? Yeah.
His question, sorry.
Oh,
yeah, okay. Briefly, just to answer that. Actually, like when I was schooling, we all were from government schools, in the 1980s, 1990s, there was not much division. But as you see, as the middle class grew in Malaysia, so there were times where the unity actually at one point in time there was a certain amount of unity in that. But then the Islamization process and then the discrimination, many things have changed. Today, if you ask children how is it in school, non-Muslims cannot bring food to school and all. This is actually a systematic divide and rule, which polarization which starts from school and will end in university. And then it's also there out there in the world. How do you change? The government doesn't want you to change. So how do you change? I think it's more of how the people react, what the people actually want. So that's why I say, when you have a united progressive front, a big one, you can bring these changes. Okay, then you can tell the same government, or even if you are not in power, your voice will be heard. Because many changes have been done in the past 10 to 15 years, okay, which has actually been significant in this country, okay, which we thought it will never happen, but it happened. So today we want change in the education system, something really radical and big needs to be done. And so you and I can't make the changes. It should be a big movement that should ask for this change. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, comrade. We will move on. We'll take another question. Yeah. You can, yeah.
First of all, I would like to say thank you and congratulations to the organizers. Such what I would consider quite an important discussion that we are having. It's a very crucial point of social development around the world, especially with what is happening. And also, I would agree with the ambassador. We say that the Palestinian issue, the Palestinian struggle for liberation, especially demands our attention at this crucial time because of just the level of destruction that has been happening. And it demands that we in the left need to do something. And especially in countries like Malaysia, as we understand, a Muslim majority country, most of the leadership of the Palestinian movement is dominated by the right. If you go to the streets, the right wing that is leading. And it is absolutely important, I think, that the left wing also put our leadership forward and offer our leadership for the masses to give a more clear perspective of what is happening. It's not a religious issue. It is a right to self-determination struggle of a particular group. And I would also comment what is the discussion today, but I would also suggest that we should continue the kind of discussion in Malaysia, especially among the Malaysian left, especially in the direction of looking for a solution, a permanent solution, of course, for what is happening in Palestine, but also a solution to try to stop what is happening at this point of time as well. So I think this kind of a discussion is also important. I failed to mention that my name is Yuva from Socialist Alternative. And just so happened that we are also having some discussion about the Palestinian liberation struggle. And I know PSM has also organized some campaigns and protests, which is very commendable. Just so happened that this Sunday, we are also having a discussion about the Palestinian issue, especially focusing on the solution. We have one of our international representatives, we have invited a speaker. So whoever is available, please also join that discussion and we will discuss further. You can find more information on Socialist Alternative Facebook, Instagram, and also you can just come and talk to me while I'm here. Thank you very much.
Just to sum it up for our speakers online, so just now Comrade Yuwa said that most of the leadership of the Palestinian liberation causes in Malaysia, they are mostly dominated by right-wing forces. So we on the left, we have to put out our perspective also, and then to break the perception that Palestine is not just a religious issue. So, and also we must continue to fight for
a permanent solution, to end this occupation. Okay, so now we'll move
You
on.
want me to answer something or?
Okay, do you want to provide more input to that? Yeah, feel free to do so, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, thank you very much. And actually, our comrades said the right things. Yeah, all the leadership from Hamas and Fatah, they are right wing. Fatah is like liberal party in Palestine, and Hamas is like Islamic a theory of Muslim Brotherhood. And this is like that we cannot like saying like we don't need to support the resistant because they are right wing. I'm telling you, we are trying, but the left parties have problems of finding an alliance. In Palestine, everyone need alliance. I mean, external alliance to give them money and to train them and give them weapons if they want to fight. So Hamas was funded by Iran and Turkey, and we've been like giving training in Syria and Iran. All right. Saudi Arabia is funding Fatah. Palestine used to be good country before colonization, but now Israel system controlling our jobs and our water and even export and import. I'm telling you, even medicine, we cannot enter it to West Bank or Jerusalem. So most of the Palestinian get paid from Palestinian Authority, it's mean from Saudi Arabia. Or working with Hamas, it's mean they get paid from Iran. Tell me what's the choice I have to choose like to work with whom? For me, as a socialist, I hate Saudi Arabia and Iran, both. I don't like them. But like, like, I want you to just support the people and understand we are stuck. We don't have a choice. Like, you need to choose Saudi Arabia and Iran, and both of them, they are wrong. But we do not have the luxury to choose from where to get bread or where to work. If we are like it's big jail. Palestine is big jail. It's not something you can choose. Sometimes you can see the apple fruits and you cannot buy it. Not because you don't have money, because it's just for Israel settler, not for you. It's not something like we have the choice. That's my answer.
Thank you, comrade. So now we'll move on to other questions or any input from the floor.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Kira. I'm from the Socialist Fraternity together with the First Organization. It's not a question, but more of a contribution that I would like to share after listening to speakers today. I would just like to share the situation here in Malaysia. It has been a tradition every year that we protested about what's the situation for Israel and Palestine. And after the incident, 7th October, we have seen protests that have never seen before. It was mass in Malaysia. And unfortunately, it was organized by a group of NGOs, Muslims NGOs, which has some lean to right-wing organization, right-wing ideas. And this is what happened in Palestine, and around the world has taken it as some kind of something that they can connect to. And why is that? It's because of the situation of the global capitalism itself, which is going into decay and going into such problems. And how each state, each capitalist state is responding to this is either, they will respond to looking for a leadership, which is what we call a how do you say it?
strongman figure, like a strongman figure, for example, like we have in the Philippines, which used to be have Duterte, Marcos, sorry. Yeah, so a strongman figure. And I'm sure in Italy itself, there's a wrong, right-wing movement. And why is this happening? I mean, we would discuss a very prolonged discussion about why left is it is as though left is not taking a stand, or they're not coming together, not getting up in this kind of situation. Yes, but it is also kind of like a natural response when your identity is being stripped away, when your place where you live in is stripped away, like what's happening in Papua, Indonesia, and of course, today our discussion is about Palestine. So we as a group of people, being human, we come together and we search for something that we can be together to fight against. So our voice as a left organization, we see this situation that's happening. It's not something that is identity-based or religion-based, but it is because of the capitalist agenda itself that wants to strip away the identity that we have and change everyone into a working class. Just be working class, sell your own labor, get monthly wages and all that, work day to day. And that's what working class, capitalism is doing. And because of capitalism is decaying, us as a conscious layer, like I would support what you guys are saying, is that we need to gang up together and come together and insert our voice, left voice, give a class perspective, give a political alternative for the working class. So yeah, that's my comment. It's my question.
Okay. Does any of the speaker online wants to respond to Kira's comments? So she spoke mainly about how as the global order is decaying, people are desperately looking for an iron fist form of leadership. But we, the left, we have to assert our voice and also give a class perspective for the working class.
Well, I don't know. I think what's her name? Ori, the all African. I love to hear her answer about this. For me, like there is something very important to talk about. People saying like, who's organizing the most of Palestinian rally around the world are the left, socialists mainly, who's organizing Palestinian rallies. But there is media, especially Al Jazeera, showing is Muslim community is doing rally in Australia or in UK or in America, which is untrue. If you want to see the Form 1, I mean who get the license to do the rally, who is the MC of the rally, who's the speaker of the rally, you will know exactly it is socialist movement who's doing the rally for Palestine. But the media, especially Al Jazeera, convert everything to be like, yeah, Muslim community in Western country doing rallies. That's wrong. So this is I don't know if I answer part of your questions. It's about how we deliver the message. We need our leadership to be to not say no. It doesn't matter what they are saying. People know. No, people don't know. People in other city in Australia, they don't know. They are listening to the media. So we need to have our own media. We need our leader to fight back always the people who's stealing our events and our functions.
Thank you, Comrade. So for now, we will move on to, we will slowly move on to close this event with concluding remarks from each speaker. So every speaker will have about 2 minutes to speak to conclude and wrap up their presentation or speech.
So who do you want to start with? Okay, maybe we can start with Comrade Megan. Is that okay?
Me first? Okay.
Yes, yeah. So you have 2 minutes to make your concluding remarks. Yeah.
Yep. What everyone discussed, I think, is very insightful. I thank you for everything. As a a transgender woman and as a LGBT human rights defender too in Sabah, looking at stateless and undocumented individuals, I think that all of us should work hand in hand together. As much as Palestine issue is very important, I think that every human being is really matter too, because without all of you that work together, we really don't know what is going on. And looking at other country, I feel like I am in solidarity with all of you. I am, how much that I can do, how much that I can prove that, in Sabah is different. It's a different level. In the peninsula, we see all of this Palestine movement, but in Sabah, we barely even see it. So it's really, I am speechless. That's all I can say. But thank you for this thing. I mean, thank you for everything, for the insightful. I am overwhelmed. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade. Okay, so now we'll pass it to Comrade Saleh. You have Comrade, you have 2 minutes to conclude your talk, your speech here.
Well, once again, I would like to thank all the organizers of this event. I mean, to let us to talk to other, to understand each other. And I would like to mention that the Middle East is the heart of the world, and it's very, very complicated. I mean, in the Middle East and the world, as we see, there is a third world war in the Middle East. Mostly, I mean, the Middle East, they have two issues. One of them is the Palestinian issue, and the other one is the Kurdish issue. The Kurdish issue is bigger than the Palestinians, actually, but the effect is just because the Palestinian issue is very old and it's very complicated. But for the Kurdish people, for the Kurdish issue, we are looking for the existence. I mean, to be recognized that there is a nation called the Kurdish, and they have their own culture. So they are looking for and fighting, struggling for their existence. And I think all the comrades over there and in all the world, they should know these issues too. And I think by this kind of, I mean, talking and events, we can each other, maybe you can make a favor for all of us to exchange the addresses of us to be in connecting and explaining to each other. Many friends over there, comrades, they talked about the women issue. Actually, we have maybe some of them you have heard about the Kurdish women, which they were fighting in front of everybody against ISIS, against Daesh. So you are aware of that. So of course, I mean, we have a lot to talk and to make the other comrades and friends and even the organizations to understand what we are doing here. Really is many things is new in the world, and I think it's in compliance with the humanitarian values which everybody is like equality, like women rights, like the sectarians, and so we are building a new system here in Rojava, especially, and in the Kurdish areas. So we need our comrades to understand each other. So once again, if you would like to make a favor to everybody, to let us keep in contact to each other, and maybe you have our phones and our contacts, so you can exchange, let us to exchange the information to understand each other very well, and maybe in future we can organize such an event together, even through the maybe through the Zoom or anything else. Well, thank you very much again and giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade. We'll move on to Comrade Onya Songmu to conclude her speech.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us and for inviting me to be part of this incredible event. Just want to reiterate that is the organized masses of people fighting back against the capitalist imperialist system, against the ruling class that are the true makers of history. We have the example of the brave Palestinian resistance, the front lines against Zionism, against settler colonialism. We had the example of the alliance of Sahelian states fighting back against and U.S. imperialism in the Sahel. We had the example of the Cuban Revolution surviving because of their socialist economic development, despite over 60 years of a genocidal economic blockade imposed by the United States. All throughout history, we have examples over and over and over again of the organized masses of people overcoming enemies that on paper had more resources, had better weapons, had more power. But the organized masses of people show that when we are united, when we have a clear revolutionary ideology, when we're fighting for justice, that we have the capacity to overcome superior firepower with superior organization. So thank you once again for having this panel. Victory to the people of Palestine, victory to Cuba, victory to the Alliance of Sahelian States, and have a great day.
Thank you. So now we would like to invite Comrade Florentino to give his closing remarks.
I use the mic over here. Don't create a problem. Thank you again for inviting me. Thank you. I have learned today also, and that's one of the important things when we have all of us together, the combined experience. I was thinking when the comrade from South Africa was talking, and he raised the point that at the beginning, Nelson Mandela was just a terrorist. Because he was fighting the oppression. And that's why I have raised the point that we need to fight the colonial mentality when it comes to intellectual. What is the tagging? How can people be tagged, can be discriminated, even though where they're fighting for their own right? So it's important. You were mentioning the topics of the school. Someone was mentioning the topics of the youngsters, that they have the right to vote, but they don't use it. They don't know how to use it. So it all goes to the point that we need to communicate better with them. We need to teach them better and fight the constant concepts that have been bombarded to us through social media, to main media, to mainstream media, and to fight that because there's another reality, an alternative, and all the speakers here tonight have shown that resistance is possible if we stick to what we know and we provide the elements and the truth to the people. People will know the truth and they will follow it. And that's the resistance and the only path to liberty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade Florentino. So now we'll move on to Comrade Khalid to do your closing remarks.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank you as organizer. You are doing great job and you are a good listener. I want to tell all my young generation, I'm not that old, but I'm in 55. Be patient. Revolution need patience. You cannot do it very fast. Changing in the society need to you work hard. Do not look back saying, yeah, I work 1 year and I didn't achieve anything. I work 4 years. I'm not achieving my goal. It's not easy to achieve something, but feel that things you are doing something for your community, for your country, for the world. When I go to the road, I'm meeting my friend from Tamil community, meeting from Igor, meeting friend from Afghan and from Kurdistan, from all the revolution, from Latin America. All those people, I used to go with them in the rally. Now they are joining Palestinian rally. So you need to do solidarity groups. and be strong and keep fighting. It's our world. We need to get it back for ourselves. Thank you very much.
Be patient with us. So now let's move on to Comrade Anna from MSC Brazil to give her closing remarks. Comrade Anna, are you there? Oh. Comrade Anna, can you hear us? Okay, I don't think Comrade Anna is available at the moment, but it's okay. We'll move to Ongila to give her closing remark.
Yeah, I think thanks. I think it was a very good sharing today. But what we learned from everybody is actually constant resistance, as our comrade from Palestine actually said, resistance and change cannot be achieved in a day. So whatever we do today will bring to bigger changes in the future. So that's what we should believe, and we should continue to educate the masses. Political education is very important, and to build a united and a strong front to bring the people's struggle forward is a very crucial thing in every situation and in every region. So all the best to all our comrades who are here today, because I think everybody is fighting your own struggle, but we are all in solidarity in this struggle, and together we will build a better world for the future generation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so to end this forum with with a bang, so we will connect with Comrade Maurizio Coppola from he's the chairman of Potere of Popolo's International Committee. We'll connect with him and he'll provide us like a live streaming of what's going on for Italy's Liberation Day March. Yeah. Comrade Maurizio?
Hi, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to be with you and to see that this collaboration also between Power to the People, Potere al Popolo, my organization, and the PSM, among two continents internationally, it's something really great. And I think it's the perspective we always have to take when we speak about liberation and socialism and so on. I wanted just to bring back what we are doing here in Italy today. It's a very important day, of course. It's April 25, the day of liberation from fascism, the day when the partisans with resistance, with an armed struggle, kicked out of the country the fascists that ruled for decades. And so it was the starting moment for democracy, for the real participation of the working class in the everyday life, and so on and so on. And I think it's still a struggle we have to reflect and think about for different reasons. First of all, today in Rome, during the demonstration on April 25, Zionists took to the streets to protest against the Palestinians, the Palestinian community, the internationalists, the socialists, supporting the struggle of the Palestinian people. And this is a situation really that is producing, and I think the Palestinian struggle, the resistance is producing today like a very clear division between who is for liberation, who is for democracy, who is for a progressive development of our societies, and who is against democracy, who is for an authoritarian turn in our societies, who is for a government that is selling only and was sending weapons to make war. And this today was very clear in the streets of Rome, where the police protected the Zionists against the people in solidarity with the Palestinian struggle. So this is a first point that is very important. The 25th of April is not only a historical day for the liberation of Italy, but it's also a very concrete day today for the question of liberation. So we have to think it very concrete in terms of the today's struggle. So this division is also it's a division among the governments here in Europe, supporting the Israeli genocide against the Palestinian people, and the people in Italy, the working class, the students, all in support of the Palestinian struggle for liberation and self-determination. And I think as a political organization, Power to the People, we always support people fighting for their liberation, struggling for their liberation, and not only in one date like today, the 25th of April, but we have here a slogan saying the 25th of April is every day. So we have to fight for freedom every day and everywhere we are. And of course, I come back to the Palestinian question. It's producing not only a big separation between the government, the ruling class, and the working class, but it's also producing a very clear separation between, in fact, with a huge attack on the democratic rights between democracies and governments going towards an authoritarian turn. The governments are using this situation to criminalize social struggles in general. And with this, I want to conclude. I think it's very important. Today in Europe, we are not only supporting the Palestinian struggle for liberation, we are also supporting our rights. So it is not only that the Palestinians need us in the West, in the global North, to support their struggle, but we have to inspire our struggle from the Palestinians. Today in France, over 500 people are accused to be like in favor of terrorism. In Germany, people and groups are attacked, criticized being like anti-Semites, even if they are clear anti-racists, Jewish voices for peace, and so on. And we have the same situation in Italy. The governments are using this situation of genocide in Palestine to attack also the social rights and the democratic rights of the working class in Europe. And this is the reason why the struggle the Palestinian people are fighting today is a struggle also for our rights, and we have to join this form of struggle. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening and for inviting me to participate in this meeting.
Thank you, Comrade. Okay, so that marks the end of our forum. So before we leave, I just want to promote other events that are happening until the 1st of May. So for Liberart, we have a photographic exhibition titled Lands of Liberation going on at the Rumah Atat Library, which is upstairs. And it will be held until the 1st of May, features a collection of images of people's struggles against fascism, imperialism, and colonialism. We also have a play on the 27th of April titled An Evening of Solidarity, Echoes of Empowerment. So the play weaves the story of oppressions and liberation. The event is fully booked for now, and we thank you everyone for their enthusiastic support and those who paid to watch the play. And later, as you leave the venue, feel free to view the posters that we've exhibited on the staircase heading towards Rumah Atat Library. So you can just, you walk out and then you go up the staircase. You can see like a series of posters. So feel free to do that. And also, please come and join the Labour's Day March on the 1st of May. We look forward to your attendance. And let us march again for a better world. Okay, thank you and good night to everyone.
Thank you very much. Good night. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye bye.